The Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority issued Nigeria Air Limited a 5-year air transport license on the 3rd of June 2022. This is to further the course of aviation in Nigeria. But there are many, many questions yet to be answered, like what happened to the one we used to have, and how feasible is the new national air carrier. My name is Olujoke Mosaku. Hello and welcome. It's Let's Talk, and my guest is Builder Olumese Okooboh. He is an entrepreneur. But before we go into details, I would like to remind you, as always, to please subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on all of our social media platforms. Until then, please let's enjoy the ride together. Thank you so much, Builder Olumese Okooboh.
Yes, thank you, Olujoke, for having me. Thank you very much.
Okay. How would you describe Nigerian aviation industry and what happened to Nigeria Airways?
To me, the Nigerian aviation industry is one very active and profitable industry. We can see that by the evidences of the private operators that are in the industry. But I can't say exactly that as regarding the national carrier, the Nigerian national carrier, which was scrapped, I think about 2003, 2004, thereabout. Nigerian Airways used to be very, very popular until then. But just as you said in your introductory speech, we really do not know what happened to that carrier that made it to be scrapped. Some quarters talk about bad management, corruption, overstaffing. There are a lot of reasons that have been profiled that brought about cancelling of that first airliner. But now we're talking about a new one, and why we have many questions arising as regarding this new one is because I think we have not really pinpointed what happened to Nigerian Airways. In fact, the pensioners, those that retired or those that were staff of members of staff of the former carrier, are still clamoring for their allowances and their payments, their pensions, their gratuities. A whole lot of them are still complaining that they have not been paid. And so we are saying that we want to start a new carrier and we have not even properly buried the old one. So there are a whole lot of questions, even for me, as an individual, concerning how successful this carrier is going to be. So the aviation industry is actually profitable, but I cannot say the same thing as concerning the national carrier itself.
Mm. Okay. So basically, like I said earlier, there are issues and questions that need to be answered. The last one was not successful as a result of some issues, and the staff are still yet to be paid of their pensions, and so many other things that we do not know about. And now we want to come up with another carrier, of which is not going to be named after the initial one, which is Nigeria Airways. Now I think is Nigeria Air.
Yes.
Now, what is the situation of things with Nigeria Air, especially when it comes to the percentage of shares for the parties involved?
Well, the percentage of shares, I read that the government will own 5%, and then the other percentage is about 95% to be shared, I think 46 and 45 or thereabout, something like that. Now, one part of that percentage is declared to be shares that can be bought by the open public. Now, the other part of the ownership, the share, which is over 40%, obviously, um, is not clearly stated how it is going to be owned. It brings about some kind of gray areas that I think needs to be clarified. If this Nigeria Air is going to work, then transparency must be key. Now, if we do not know who the real owners are going to be, because of course the real owners are going to be the decision makers of Nigerian Air. If we do not know who the real owners are, then we might stand the chance of still losing this one just the same way we lost the last one. So concerning the shareholding, the sharing formula, I think that there is an interim management committee or thereabout that is supposed to ensure that Nigerian Air takes to the air. Now, they should be able to come up with a transparent mode of explaining how Nigerian Air is going to be owned. If that is not done, it will seem to me like there would be, major players that will be in the background that will determine how it plays out, not just the public that owns shares in Nigerian Air.
Okay. Now, I would like to quickly take us back to um, something actually was coming to my mind while you were talking about the shares and everything. Now, do we have, does Nigeria have planes, aircraft already available for this takeoff?
In fact, Olujoke, I was going to I was going to save that for last. That has been my major concern. Now, Nigeria Air is supposed to have taken off long ago. I think all of this started around 2018.
Sure.
The then Minister of Aviation said by the end of 2018, Nigeria Air should have taken off. That didn't happen. And then the next thing we heard was by June, by the middle of this year, that is June, this particular month, Nigeria Air should get into action. Now, I am asking this question. I have not seen adverts. I have not seen airplanes. There is no proper publicity. Of course, Nigeria Air is supposed to be a commercial flight. So the public should know that Nigeria Air um, is taking off. These are the planes that are available. By now, schedules should be out. By now, we should know, okay, where is the crew? Where are the planes? Nigeria Air does not own a single plane. Now, the Minister of Aviation said that they are going to start out with leasing planes, which is how over 90% of all the carriers, that's how they started. Now, because according to him, if you order for a plane, it's going to take about 3 to 4 years. Now, if we had ordered for a plane since 2018, by now the plane should have arrived. I think that if we were serious about Nigerian Air, as at 2018, when we said that it was supposed to take off at the end of 2018, if we had ordered planes in 2018, the planes should have arrived by now. But up till now, there is no record to show that planes have been ordered. Now, there is no record to show which firm or which company they want to rent the carriers from. So it is, I think, safe for me to assume that as at the time we are speaking right now, there are no planes on ground for a carrier that is supposed to take off in June. So as much as I am positive about Nigerian Air, I do not think that it's possible for it to take off in this month of June.
Yeah, but it has been launched. Now that the national carrier has been launched,
Yeah.
what next? What should we expect? Why do you think that it is necessary for a nation, a country like Nigeria, to go back to have its her personal air services when we have other private air services that has been working for quite some time? Why? What next?
You see, for every nation, there has to be a flag carrier. Now, space dominance, or showing that you are around, is not just a ground thing. And so every nation needs to have a flag bearer that carries their name to the skies. Now, it's actually embarrassing that Nigeria does not have that kind of presence in the sky. We have plenty private firms that are doing well, in the air. But for Nigeria as a nation and as a giant of Africa in quotes, we ought to have a kind of presence in the air. Now that is going to remove the monopoly that comes with air travel. For example, when the government is involved in a kind of business, there can be an interplay between the way that business is controlled. No one can hold anybody to ransom. For example, if all the airplanes says they are not flying, for example, anybody that needs to travel is grounded. So if a nation has a national carrier, to a large extent, they have a say in how the activities plays out within the airspace. Let me give an example. If any of the airways, for example, any of the private owned airways decides to go on strike, or they decide to be grounded for one reason or the other, the government of a nation should be able to come up to be able, to show that they are in space. When the issue between what's the country now, Russia and Ukraine came up, countries had to begin to evacuate their their citizens from those nations. Now, every nation that begins to have trouble, every country will want to bring out their people from that place. If a nation does not have a national carrier, they are at the mercy of the private contractors. And we know how much, Nigeria claims to have spent in bringing back citizens from Ukraine. Now, there have been questions around that no, the money can't be much and all of that. If we had a national carrier, it would be a different story entirely. Now, the other thing is this. I think that having a national carrier has a way of reducing corruption, in my own view. There are so many people that would not want the national carrier to fly because they would want to always involve the services of the private contractors as a means of siphoning public funds. So if we have a national carrier and the national carrier or the government can have a say in what happens in the aviation industry, flight costs might be put, under check and in control. And the nation would, as a part of those that are doing the flight thing, they would know what is happening in, the space. It's not like talking about the theoretical aspect. If the nation is running their own carrier, they will be able to know where the shoe hurts, as per those that are flying. So if the private contractors are saying that the cost of air, what do you call it now, gas for the fuel for the plane is too high, the national carrier also, because they are using the same kind of fuel, will be able to understand what these guys are talking about. Otherwise, any solution that the government tries to offer will just be theoretical. They won't be speaking from the standpoint of someone that has first-hand understanding of the challenges in air travel.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's quickly go on this break and we'll be right back. The program is Let's Talk on DNT Work, and I've been speaking with builder Olumese Okooboh. He is also an entrepreneur, and we've been talking about the new Nigerian National Air Carrier, and it's been wonderful all the while. So let's continue from where we stopped. Now, let's talk about sustainability and feasibility. What's the future like? If the first one sank due to corruption, what then should Nigeria and Nigerians expect?
Well, the government, from experience, is not a good entrepreneur. I think that from the start, it should be defined. Is Nigerian Air a business or just a bid for the nation to just have, space presence, presence in the air? Now, I think the first mistake that was made with the first carrier, the Nigerian Airways, was such that um, government, what do you call it now? Those that work in government can fly the Nigerian Airways free. Those in the army, depending on your rank, that is all will determine whether you are flying first class or not. Now, if Nigerian Air is going to last, we need to first define whether it is meant to be a profitable business or it is just one of the government holds, something that the government just wants to use, to have space in air. Now, if it is not treated as a profitable business, this is what I think will happen. The government will now have to include the management of Nigerian Air in its yearly budget. And I don't think that is a good idea. For any business to work, we must be able to look at how profitable it is. It is the profitability that will determine whether it will last or not. We have seen many government infrastructure abandoned. Now, let me just give an example. The Nigerian Railway Corporation. I think Nigerian Railway Corporation went through this same procedure that the Nigerian Air wants to go through. There was the first Nigerian Railway that died. And then we started a new one. I have been opportune to travel by rail since the new one started. And I'm also seeing a trend of what happened to the old one also on the new one. For example, we see, empty seats on the first class cabin. It is difficult to buy first class tickets. Now they tell you when you get on the train, for example, you can get a first class ticket from a staff who has a right to a first class seat. And so that particular fund does not go to Nigerian Railways, it goes to the staff that owns that seat. Now, that is already an abnormality that is going to kill the new Nigerian rail system if something is not done about it. So, if the Nigerian Air is going to last, then we should be sure, or we should, how do I put this now? The government should not directly put their hands into the management of it because government is a bad manager of any business. We have seen it happen to our education. We have seen it happen to our electricity. We have seen it happen to our water system. So government cannot manage a business profitably. In fact, the overhead for running government itself can kill a business. So if Nigerian Air is going to be profitable, if it is going to last, then the government must be ready to hand it over to those that will run it profitably and leave them to run it. One thing that happens to anything that has the hand of government in it is the unfortunate level of corruption we have in the country. For example, someone can walk up to a place and tell you that he has a link with maybe the minister for this, and then they allow him, to have what he wants to have. I will not be shocked if you just find out that a flight is cancelled because certain government officials need to travel and they just pull out an airplane from the Nigerian Air. If it is going to last, then government will have to allow private investors to manage it with maybe a board that the private investors will be answerable to. I think that's my view. That's my view. And that's what we're skeptical about. Now, concerning investors, for example, many people are not, too forward to invest in Nigerian Air because the government has a hand in it. And I think that is a problem in itself. So if the government can come up with a strategy like, okay, we're not going to touch it. For example, the electricity, I think it's getting better because, there was a privatization move that happened that brought in private investors into the electricity, terrain. If that happens and the government is just going to sit back and allow the private investors to run it, there might be a chance that it would work. Because we see how that private businesses seem to work and thrive, but government businesses seem not to. There is always this high cost of overhead when it comes to government that makes me suspect there is so much inflating of figures that goes on by those that work for the government. So if we are going to have Nigerian Air that will live long, that will last, that will meet up to the expectations of world-class air travel, then government will have to hand over to private investors to manage it.
Thank you so much for this wonderful discussion. Do you have any final word?
Yes, thank you, Olujoke, for having me. Um, of course, there are so many things that we say that ends on maybe social media and all of that. Um, Government might not get to watch this, but those of us that are individuals, on the streets, on our phones, that get to see any of this, we should make up our minds also that one day we might be the government, we might be the custodian of government. So when we get there, we should do things better than they are now. We should not get there and run things the very same way that they run. And then on a last note, why I am even still skeptical about it flying is, Nigeria is preparing towards the elections in 2023, and attention has shifted from every other thing to the elections. So I do not think that Nigerian Air will be given the attention it needs until after the elections. And if it does not fly now, I doubt if it would fly for a long time.
Mm. Thank you so much for that. I indeed agree with you because all attention now is on the 2023 general election. So I hope this actually pulls through. Thank you so much, Mr. Olumese Okooboh. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
And to you too out there, thank you too for being part of the show. Until next time, I remain Olujoke Osako. Bye for now.